your tour. You said you've been touring around speaking. Tell me about that first.
Yeah. So, as you know, when you have a book come out, you have a pretty punishing, grueling schedule of talking. And my schedule has been nothing like yours have been over the years, but I've gotten to talk to a lot of different people, from all over the political spectrum about the message of my book, which is that, color blindness is the best philosophy to take with respect to racial identity. In other words, you're a white guy, I'm Black and Hispanic, but those are not the features of ourself that should ultimately matter, right? What matters when talking about Jordan Peterson is his qualities, his values, his actions, and likewise with me. And so our culture has become kind of deranged on this issue, especially on the left, which used to be the bastion and actually the founder of colorblindness. As I explained in my book, chapter 2, I devote to just a historical examination of where this idea of colorblindness comes from. There's been a false history written that suggests that colorblindness came from conservatives and even reactionaries, and is kind of a kind of subterfuge, a Trojan horse for white supremacy. This has no basis in fact. In fact, in my book, I go all the way back to the 1860s to a man named Wendell Phillips, who was one of the most prominent anti-slavery activists of his era. His nickname was Abolition's Golden Trumpet. And he was the earliest person to mention the word colorblind in the context of advocating for what he called a government colorblind, by which he meant a government that cannot and does not recognize race anywhere in the law as a reason to discriminate between people. So that's where the idea of colorblindness comes from. It actually comes from the most radical wing of the abolitionists. Since the 1960s, you have seen a process that began in the academy with critical race theory, and since 2013 or 14 has metastasized far more broadly on the left into elite left-wing institutions that has rewritten the history of colorblindness as if it's a bad faith idea coming from the worst corners of the far right, to the point where, as an experiment, right before I started writing this book, I just Googled colorblindness race because I wanted to see what would come up. 9 of the 10 links that came up were all articles arguing why colorblindness is bad, racist, reactionary, naive, etc. And the 10th was a Wikipedia page. So there's been a very successful PR campaign against the concept of colorblindness, to the point where you've had celebrities that advocate for it have to walk it back and apologize publicly and so forth. And so my goal with this book is to tell the truth about the history of colorblindness, where it came from, to tell the logic behind the principle. Why is it such a good principle for a multiracial society? Why is it the only path forward? And that's really been my project for the past many months.